pipeline for conservative punditry in print. That's where I really ladle out the good, solid conservative red meat that I love so much. Newsweek is sort of for a broader audience, and so it could be anything. It could be political or maybe not. And my piece this morning is on the post-COVID workplace. Here we are on a Friday, right? I'm sitting in my workplace. I never left. What do Dennis and I have in common? We never did shows from home. A lot of people did. I understand it. If you've got some big, seething morning team, 5 or 6 people, some morning zoo operation or something, and you're all in each other's grill, I totally get it, where you dispatch everybody to the house for April, May, June, July, whatever you guys wanted to do, whatever the station wanted you to do that employs you. But I have a blessing of being in this room pretty well by myself. I work with people, but they're through the glass. Producer, board op, news people. And so I've thoroughly loved getting up, leaving my house. I love my house. I love my family, but I love a radio station, walking in here, sitting down and doing what I do. Now, it's been a ghost town in here. I've been walking the halls. It's like, it's tumbleweeds, but we're coming back to normal. We're bringing our folks back, and there are memos all over the place that, our mask policy has been relaxed at long last, and we're bringing people back. This is not true everywhere. So I'm going to ask about your workplace as we let me get through the top stories of the week, the hot topics, and then I'll share at least the gist of that column, because while the virus itself is loosening its grip on us, there are some things that are never going to change. There's some workplaces that will never be back. There's some procedures that have changed, and some of them are actually pretty good. Streamlining of a lot of health care. I can take home a 6-pack of margaritas from a Mexican restaurant. Priority check. And I don't mean to be flippant. I truly don't, because we've had a lot of dead people and a lot of slaughtered livelihoods and a lot of kids' educations sacrificed on the altar of phony COVID panic. Virus isn't phony. The panic was. The degree to which we committed economic and societal suicide on the altar of maximum virus mitigation. We had that balance wrong. We had that balance wrong. And if this ever happens to us again, please, Lord, let this not happen to us again. But odds are it will. I don't know. I hope we've learned some lessons, and I hope that as a public, as a society, we will not let this happen to us again in the way that it has. And if someone steps forward and says, does that mean you'd have more people willing to die of the virus? There are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. There are no solutions. If you get more of this, you get less of that. Add more of that, you get less of this. So when I say we had the balance wrong, we had X number of people who died. And of course, I don't want more people to have died. If there's some magical way to have less death and fewer destroyed households and livelihoods and futures and educations, I would sprinkle that magic dust all day. But doesn't exist. So it's a world of balances. There are no trade-offs. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. And so next time, and let me offer it in the following way. I'm going to make a proposal to you that we drop interstate speed limits to 30 miles an hour. Your first thought might be, that's really stupid, and you'd be right. We'd save lives, though. We'd save lives. And if you oppose this, deaths from having the speed limits at 55 or 70, or like we have in some parts of Texas, 125 or whatever they are now. See what I mean? We're not going to put the speed. Yes, it would save lives to put the interstate speed limit at 30. But guess what? You got to go faster on the interstate, because that's what life is about. It's what we need. It's what society, everything we do is going to have a certain risk. Having businesses open, having our kids in school, walking down the street, all of these things are going to involve a certain type of risk. And we went absolutely crazy toward risk avoidance. And how many lives did that destroy? How many workplaces did that destroy? How many futures did that destroy? How many years of school did that destroy? Speaking of years of school, I took a call from a wonderful Texas teacher this morning, and she said, we got rid of our mask requirement like at the last day of school. So for our remaining summer stuff that we got to do, I was walking the halls in a mostly empty building, but I was walking the halls mask-free, and it felt a little weird, but it felt wonderful. And I asked her, I said, enjoy summer, but isn't there another interesting turnstile to walk through on the first day of school, which here in Texas tends to be third week of August? And you're going to walk into a building filled with a couple of thousand maskless high schoolers. How's that going to go? And she said, I can't wait. It will be so great to see their faces again. It will be so great for them to hear me again. Because whether you're in a classroom or, at a at a Taco Bell drive-thru, I'm sorry, what? Excuse me, what? Oh, I'm so tired of that. I'm so glad to be done. So, after we had that little stretch of conversation, she said, I have a relative who's a teacher in a blue state. Uh-oh, cha. In a blue state. And they are still debating. They are debating. Ready? They are debating whether to have in-person classes in the fall. You are kidding me. So anyway, well, that was a snippet of today. It was illustrative of what we're talking about the post-COVID world and what that has us left with. So let's take this pause. Let's talk a little bit about Biden in Europe, talk a little bit about the Juneteenth controversy. It's a shame that we even had a Juneteenth controversy, but we did, and I'll tell you why, and a bunch of other things. 1-8-Prager-776. Grab a line. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Happy Friday. We'll continue.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Democrats have spent the past year pursuing an obvious contradiction, calling for more gun control while also sympathizing with the defund the police movement. They've argued simultaneously and disingenuously that law-abiding Americans don't need firearms for self-defense because of the police. At the same time, they have provided support for those who want to scale back or entirely eliminate policing. The astounding new data on gun sales shows Americans aren't buying either argument. The New York Times reported that a record number of first-time purchasers have bought guns in the past year. Half of those are women, and 40% are evenly split between blacks and Hispanics. Household ownership percentage has spiked 7 points after years of remaining flat. Gun ownership has become even more diverse, and in many areas where police are in retreat, even more necessary. Joe Biden's gun control push will make his party look even more radical and even more out of touch. I'm Ed Morrissey.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
There was a story of a young woman, including the White Bear Lake Police Department, by the name of Avery Severson. Avery was trying to start a Turning Point USA chapter at White Bear Lake High School. She woke up one day and all of a sudden was flooded with accusations that she was sending text messages just like Hunter Biden sent. Very similar. Same language, same vocabulary. The school, of course, because she was a white conservative female, decided to try to destroy her life. Protests in the middle of class, walkouts, teachers and administrators. This reached such a high level of a boiling point that the Federal Bureau of Investigation got involved to investigate the racist messages that allegedly Avery sent. The FBI later cleared Avery's name, saying that she did not send these messages. And up until recently, I missed this story. It was a black female who actually staged the entire hoax at White Bear Lake High School. A black female made up the entire thing. A total hoax. The school district was trying to protect her name, but now the name has been leaked to the media. All the outrage, all of the attack on Avery Severson. And so, those of you that see what happened to Hunter Biden, deep down you get angry about this because you know if this was your child in a New York City preparatory school, if this was your child in Riverside, California, or in Chicago, your child would be kicked out of school and your life would be ruined.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Of all of these dealings, whether it's the more than $1 billion from the National Bank of Communist China to Hunter Biden's company, whether it is the $80,000+ every month from Burisma, whether it is $3 million from the wife of the ex-mayor of Moscow, for all of these services, what were they buying? Let me ask the naive question. Was there some product? Was something manufactured? Was there engineering services? What are we talking about for these millions and millions and sometimes billions of dollars? Or was this just...
Gets invited to a state dinner by his father. He chums up with the French ambassador, and 2 days later, or a week later,
That is the place to go, PragerU. Little Signs, original version. Who did the remake of this? Tesla or somebody? But that's the original 5-man electrical band. I hope they invested well. All righty, 1-8-Prager-776. Let us invest in each other here at that phone number and talk about things that are in the news and things that are on our minds. I'm actually going to do Climate Change 101 sooner rather than later, because a lot of people, you'll walk around, you'll hear, climate change is a hoax, climate change is bunk, and the presumption of human-caused climate change has no basis. But maybe nobody's taken 3-4 minutes to explain to you why that's a crock. So I'm going to do that, and a number of other things with regard to things that have been in the news this week. Biden abroad, are when I say needless race wars, everything is just a massive racial brouhaha. The left has done this, and the good news is, and there is good news amid all of this hectoring and scolding and tension, is that none of this is about race. None of it. It is all about politics. So as we face all those challenges, with your indulgence, let me offer what I've done at the beginning of each Prager show, and what I did for the last year and a fraction, and what I do at the beginning of my own show, and that is to have a little word with God. May Lord guide us and protect us as we face the challenges of each new day. God, we thank you every day for this blessed nation and for your hand in creating it. Fill our hearts with the energy to protect the freedoms which come from you, which our nation was founded to protect. Lord, be with us as we chart a course out of this COVID nightmare, and help us to be smart and safe as we reclaim our lives. Guide us to fight for our liberties within the law and by following your law. Let us navigate these troubling times with a positive spirit, treating others as we would like to be treated. Lord, these are times of trial and challenge. Lift us as we follow your word and work for a better America, where our Constitution is honored, our elections are reliable, our borders work, we fight for the unborn, and where our differences are hashed out with honesty and goodwill, and our freedoms of speech and worship are protected. As we face each day's problems, give us the clarity to look around and cherish our many blessings in our nation, our communities, and our families. If we follow you, Lord, we know we can get through anything. And we ask these things in your holy name. Amen. All right, 1-8-Prager-776. Let's do a little postscript on Biden. He was in Geneva, he was in Brussels, he was all over the place. And I know that everybody's front-loaded. The media are front-loaded to say, he's Churchill 2.0. It was the greatest thing in foreign policy history. And a lot of people, want to characterize this as some kind of infernal disaster. It wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't good. I mean, what really could you expect? And I know that a lot of this is seen through a political lens, and your view of the Biden trip is largely colored by your view of Biden. I know mine is. And I find this presidency to be just an unprecedented disaster. Is this worse than Obama? Of course it is. Clinton looks positively statesmanlike compared to the nonsense that's going on right now. And it's because the Joe Biden that many of you voted for because, hey, he's not as crazy as AOC. He's not a bug-eyed radical. Oh, really? We are what we do. It's behavior that dictates reality. And I know that during the campaign, I painted a lot of pictures of a rudderless, cognitively challenged Biden, being led around by the nose by Pelosi, Schumer, the squad, et cetera, et cetera. And that could be what's happening, but I actually want to give him more benefit of the doubt than that in the following way. And it's not good news. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I don't think that his synapses are flaming out as he takes the most radical views on climate, on race, on culture, on gender. And so when you take that staunch leftism, put it on Air Force One, and send it across the big pond, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get Putin on a stage with Biden garnering all of the attendant benefits, and Biden securing really nothing for the United States. The media will garner this tough guy image. Love the Time magazine cover of last week. Biden with the aviator glasses, with Putin in the reflection of those darkened glasses. Please. And the best evidence of this is that 16 key infrastructure entities that, doggone it, we wanted to tell the Russians are off limits. You better not hack these things that mean so much to us, which is essentially like saying, here are the things that we that you should hack. If hacking is a malicious activity, which by its definition it is, and someone does you the great favor of telling you the things they're most concerned about, those are the things that you're going to go after from that dank little gray office building in St. Petersburg, or wherever you happen to be. Russia, not Florida. So, and by the way, the added ridiculousness of the 16 things we don't want you to touch, don't hack these, doesn't that, by exclusion, mean that virtually anything else is fair game? Here is a crazy foreign policy suggestion, and that is that Joe Biden should have sat down with Vladimir Putin and said, I'm going to tell you the things that you should not hack in my country. Everything. All of America is off limits. There's no such thing as okay cybercrime. We don't view some things as more egregious than others. We view the entire thing as completely unacceptable. It happens with your complete knowledge and permission. You could stop it if you wanted to. If you're such the authoritarian bigwig, be that guy and stop this cyber attack, this wave of cyber attacks. We know you can do it, and we're going to judge accordingly if it doesn't happen. That's what you tell Putin. That's what you do. And look, I know that, speaking of seeing things through a certain lens, everybody sees Trump through what they thought of him. I loved every day of the Trump presidency. Was there the occasional tweet that made me go, oh, Lord, sir, you're killing me? Sure. Was there the occasional moment of excess? That people go, hey, Mark, what do you think of him now? What do you think of him now? I tell you what I think of him now. I love him now. I'd rather have a president who is right on virtually every issue, who has a couple of behavioral excesses and a couple of mean tweets, than have somebody who is a scholarly gentleman who's wrong about everything. So spare me all this stuff that we're supposed to lament as conservatives from the Trump presidency. I miss it every day. Real quick, as we wrap up this segment, get ready to take some calls. We're going to get a whole face full of Trump in the next couple of weeks. He's going to have a huge in-person, full capacity rally here, I think, on the 26th. And then on the 30th, 12 days from now, here in my state, Trump and Governor Greg Abbott at the border, where Lord knows Kamala Harris dares not go. So good times ahead. And your calls ahead. 818-PRAGER-776. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Be right back.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins in bullion
based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
You know how many ways Trump is being vindicated these days? Have you noticed? You are, right? You're paying attention. Oh, I miss Trump. And I don't think he's going anywhere. And in fact, maybe he's going to run again in 2024. I don't know. I hope he does. I hope he does. If he doesn't run, I hope he is in the ear of whoever is going to run as a Republican, because we need him. We need this. We need him back so badly. Over and over and over, he's being vindicated. How about 8 anti-Trump narratives that the media is finally forced to admit they were wrong about all along? I mean, the park. You got the park.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Did you deliberately make a virus that you wanted to do harm to the world, and then it leaked out? Well, why would the Chinese want to make a virus that equally kills them?
Did this man say that? Did he really say that? You know who the biggest mass murderer in the history of the world is? Don't take me, take the Washington Post. Quote, who was the biggest mass murderer in the history of the world? Asked the Washington Post August 3rd, 2016. It continued. Most people probably assume the answer is Adolf Hitler, architect of the Holocaust. Others might guess Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin, who may have indeed have managed to kill even more innocent people than Hitler did. Many of them as part of a terror famine that likely took more lives than the Holocaust. But both Hitler and Stalin were outdone by Mao Zedong. From 1958 to 1962, Mao's Great Leap Forward policy led to the deaths of up to 45 million people, easily making it the biggest episode of mass murder ever recorded. What did Dr. Fauci say? Why would the Chinese develop a virus that would equally kill them? Are you kidding? Dr. Fauci, have you heard of Tiananmen Square? We still don't know how many people were killed. Some say thousands. We have no idea. Because
And if you do that right now, you'll say, hey, that's not Dennis Prager. And you'd be correct about that. Dennis is back on Monday. Mark Davis with you here in my cozy studio here, just a few hundred yards from the eastern border of DFW International Airport. So we may have airplane noise. we have good soundproofing. All right, the sound I want to hear is you on the phone, so let's do it. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Mark Davis in for Dennis, and let us head up to the beautiful Pacific Northwest, where it's substantially cooler than it is here, I'm guessing. We are in Seattle. Peter, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. You know, when Trump met Putin, he took Putin's word for everything, and he denied his own intelligence agencies.
For everything? Everything like what?
Interfering with our election.
Oh, okay, really? So your suggestion is that he was closer to the Putin version of events than, quote unquote, his own intelligence agencies. Is that your complaint?
Well, yeah.
What did those intelligence agencies say?
Russia interfered with our election.
Was that true?
Yes.
In what way?
Well, they had this thing called, it was a website where they printed lies.
A website. Peter, look, I love you. Russian interference is like your Uncle Fred doing Facebook posts. They changed not one vote. The Mueller probe crashed and burned. Maybe you missed that. The whole Russia obsession was a complete joke. So this notion of he believed Putin and didn't believe his own intelligence, it's not so much who Trump believed. His version of events wound up being borne out accurately. That Russian interference was wildly overblown, and that this intelligence community filled with frauds like Clapper and Comey and McCabe, they stand disgraced.
You know, you're completely wrong, and your audience should know that.
In what way? In what way? Please tell me what I've said that's wrong. Go.
They interfere with our election.
No, don't be a broken record. I told you the way in which. In what significant way?
Which,
the website again. Oh, my heavens, the website. Spares from websites. Anything else? Have a great day. All righty, 1-8-Prager-776. We are in Orlando. Lisa, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Thank you. I'm wonderful, retired merchant marine that loves America. I'll make it short.
Thank you for both. Thank you for your service.
Go out on a
and your
limb
call.
here. Thank you. God bless us all. I believe Nancy Pelosi is a demon that put two lily pads named Harris and Biden in the Oval Office. I think she wants that seat worse than Hillary. And I'm first back at the polls when Trump re-enters the race. Let's put a pit bull back in the Oval Office. We need it bad.
Lisa,
and let's stop fighting each other.
Yeah, really. Let's aim our fire where it needs to be aimed. For the record, listen. Data can change. Evidence can change. Who knows? I believe it's a less than 50% chance that President Trump himself runs. I think he's having too much of a good time in the private sector. Would that be double, triple awesome if he pulled a Grover Cleveland, as it's called, and served 2 unconsecutive terms, came back and won again? That would just be incredibly cool, partly because of its inherent value and also the number of heads that would explode and in what TV organizations that would happen. But all other things being equal, and I'm not channeling him or, reading his mind or anything. I'm just thinking that since there is a person on the planet named Ron DeSantis, and since there are some other folks, I've taken I've always been interested and respected this gentleman. I think it's pretty clear to a lot of people that Mike Pompeo's running for president. Great. Tom Cotton. There are all kinds of welcome, strong, conservative voices, people with spine and clarity and foresight and courage who can be, what you might call the heir to the Trump revolution. Because we are not in a post-Trump Republican Party. We are in a post-Trump presidency. The presidency is post-Trump, sadly. Or is it? I know. But so there we are. So your thoughts are welcome. Mark Davison for Dennis. Got a couple of thoughts about the future of the party and other things next.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America. You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I was under constant attack you're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. We know exactly what's going on here. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Democrats have spent the past year pursuing an obvious contradiction, calling for more gun control while also sympathizing with the defund the police movement. They've argued simultaneously and disingenuously that law-abiding Americans don't need firearms for self-defense because of the police. At the same time, they have provided support for those who want to scale back or entirely eliminate policing. The astounding new data on gun sales shows Americans aren't buying either argument. The New York Times reported that a record number of first-time purchasers have bought guns in the past year. Half of those are women, and 40% are evenly split between blacks and Hispanics. Household ownership percentage has spiked 7 points after years of remaining flat. Gun ownership has become even more diverse, and in many areas where police are in retreat, even more necessary. Joe Biden's gun control push will make his party look even more radical and even more out of touch. I'm Ed Morrissey.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
There was a story of a young woman, including the White Bear Lake Police Department, by the name of Avery Severson. Avery was trying to start a Turning Point USA chapter at White Bear Lake High School. She woke up one day and all of a sudden was flooded with accusations that she was sending text messages just like Hunter Biden sent. Very similar. Same language, same vocabulary. The school, of course, because she was a white conservative female, decided to try to destroy her life. Protests in the middle of class, walkouts, teachers and administrators. This reached such a high level of a boiling point that the Federal Bureau of Investigation got involved to investigate the racist messages that allegedly Avery sent. The FBI later cleared Avery's name, saying that she did not send these messages. And up until recently, I missed this story. It was a black female who actually staged the entire hoax at White Bear Lake High School. A black female made up the entire thing. A total hoax. The school district was trying to protect her name, but now the name has been leaked to the media. All the outrage, all of the attack on Avery Severson. And so, those of you that see what happened to Hunter Biden, deep down you get angry about this because you know if this was your child in a New York City preparatory school, if this was your child in Riverside, California, or in Chicago, your child would be kicked out of school and your life would be ruined.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Yeonmi Park is her name, the North Korean defector. She says, I've seen oppression. I know what it looks like. She said, these kids, Columbia,
thank you. No problem. No problem. It is the Dennis Prager Show on this Friday, the 18th day of June, 2021. Mark Davis filling in from 6:60 a.m. The Answer. Went on kind of a roll there after the wonderful lady who had called, and she was talking about, that she wants a president back who's kind of the bull in the china shop. Let's spend a little bit on presidential personality. And part of what we were treated to on this Biden European vacation was, he's so nice, and the Europeans are just, they're breathing a sigh of relief, and everything is so affable, and he's so likable, and just what a nice man. Yeah, that is for the birds. Listen, should everybody be nice? Should you be pleasant? Should you be of course, as a personal attribute, that's absolutely true. But in terms of conducting the presidency, I don't mean you should be a jerk on purpose. I don't mean you should be unlikable or intentionally hostile or anything like that. Not at all. What I mean is that putting America first is going to, by definition, create tension around the world. That we don't need to be liked. We need to be respected. And the funny thing is that when we are respected, it does kind of fold back on itself and become admiration. Grudging admiration, maybe, from some countries and from some leaders. But for the 4 years of Trump, you just knew what you were going to get. That this was a president who was going to place America's interest first, and he didn't care which foreigners cared or which Americans cared. He was going to do what he was going to do, and the main motivating force was going to be America as his main priority, our best interests, our borders, our culture, our economy. You knew where he stood. With Biden out here kowtowing, and with the return of the America Last agenda, do you feel safer? Does that make you feel better? Is the economy stronger? Are our prospects brighter? So a few people have made this analogy. You want the president to be like your agent, negotiating for you. Let's say you're a big movie star and you're trying to negotiate a contract with a movie studio. Do you want somebody to go in there and just be incredibly kind and nice and sweet? Or do you want that person to go in like a pit bull and get the job done? And then, go out and have a lovely steak and a cocktail afterward. You want that person fighting for you. You want a fighter. And we don't have people fighting for America anymore. It's a bit of a chuckle here in my state of Texas, but it's actually pretty pathetic that our governor, a governor showing up anywhere in a state is, our Governor Abbott should be at the border all the time. It's the border is in his state. And here comes Donald Trump to come to the border on the 30th. Just circle this date on the calendar. Just circle this date on the calendar, June 30th. Donald Trump comes to Texas and visits the border with Governor Greg Abbott. Both of them showing up there before the so-called border czar does. Kamala Harris, border czar. I guess she's too busy, I don't know, looking for root causes. That explained the trip to Guatemala. By the way, God bless Guatemala. And are there things in these various other countries, Guatemala, Nicaragua, El Salvador, are there visits that one can make of substance? Sure, of course. Is there an element of the story that involves where some of these folks ultimately come from? And they're not all from Mexico. Some of them, traipse through Mexico on the way to Texas or Arizona or California from those other countries. But that's not where the problem is right now. That's not where I think Jesse Waters phrased it this way, that Kamala going to Guatemala to look at root causes and to pretend that that's effective is like walking into your house. Let's say the doors are open in your house and you walk in, your house is filled with bees. And what you do is you walk out of your house, leave the doors open, and walk next door and talk to your neighbor who's a beekeeper and try to solve the problem there. When all you really needed to do was close the doors to your house. Hat tip to Jesse for that sweet metaphor. All right, 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. We are in Dallas, Orlando. Hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How you doing?
All right, Mark, great to hear you on there. I'm out here in Dallas as well.
Thanks.
My comment was, basically, a lot of times I believe that Republicans need to stop fighting the beast for these liberal policies in these cities that have voted for these actual politicians, these liberal politicians. Yep. For example, the example I was given to her was, take Portland, for example. They voted for this mayor again after the dramatic increase in violence in the chaos that's going on. Their murder rate is 2,000%. They just lost over 50 police officers on their rapid response team that quit over the policies that are going on. I believe that Republicans should Just let it happen. I don't feel sorry for anyone who goes on the news to talk about Portland, Oregon, or any of these other liberal cities about crime rate. Guess what? You get what you voted for. If we stop trying to spoon feed it or slow it down, I believe that these dramatic policies will cause a bum rush of people voting for Republicans in the future in this next upcoming election.
Orlando, I think that's totally valid. I mean, I want good things to happen in every city. If it takes a Republican mayor in every city to make things better, I want that. If a Democrat mayor, on occasion has the clarity to make things better and separate out from the radical left, looking to defund the police and let shoplifting go, I cannot get the imagery out of my head of that guy in a Walgreens, right, in San Francisco, with a hefty bag full of pilfered merchandise on a bike for a hasty exit, riding right by the security people and out the front door. And the gentleman's point here is let it go. That instead of decrying and lamenting and trying to change these failed policies, I mean, let's have the people in those cities work to change them by electing better leadership. But as far as at the national level, if this is the way it's going to go and they're not going to change them in the near term, take a look at this city, that city, this city, that city, and say, look here, here's what the ideas of the left do in your neighborhood. Glad to be in your neighborhood today on the Dennis Prager Show. Mark Davis in for Dennis, and back with more of your calls next. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Stick around.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Chinese Communist Party sent 28 planes into Taiwan airspace, the largest air flotilla ever, including 20 fighters and 4 nuclear-capable bombers and spy planes.
Well, simultaneously, we were having a hearing on the Armed Services Committee with the Chief of Naval Operations, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, the Acting Secretary of the Navy, and I asked all of them whether they agreed with Admiral Davidson's recent assessment that the PLA could make a move on Taiwan within the next 6 years. And they all agreed. So our highest naval officers are telling us that the situation in Taiwan is growing more dire, more urgent by the day, and the PLA saber rattling, I think, is going to continue to get worse as our adversaries perceive there to be a period of opportunity where they can test American deterrence and potentially get away with something as ambitious and bold as effectuating the unification of Taiwan with the mainland. I would also highlight a recent piece in Foreign Affairs by Oriana Schuyler Mastro called The Taiwan Temptation, in which she lays out all the reasons why she could actually make a move on Taiwan, some of the recent messaging from high-level PLA officers. All of these things I think are conspiring to create a situation in which, as American deterrence collapses, as America projects weakness on the world stage, the budget we have from the Biden administration is a joke. We're actually cutting the amount of money by $2 billion that we're using to build warships, and it should not surprise us that our adversaries are testing us in Taiwan and in other places around the world.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
United States Congress has finally found something they can agree on. United States Congress, of course, can't agree on whether or not the Constitution is a document worthy of honoring. They can't agree on whether or not they should curb inflation. They can't address the crisis on the southern border. They can't try to bring back manufacturing jobs to our country. But the one thing that Congress has decided to agree on, and every single senator voted in favor of this, was to create a new federal holiday. 14 members of the House of Representatives deserve credit for voting against this, and that is to create a new federal holiday called Juneteenth. Now, you might not have heard this before. Juneteenth.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Little summertime soundtrack on the Dennis Prager Show. Mark Davis filling in from 6:60 a.m. The Answer in the big DFW. Let us hop back to your call, see what's going on. We are in Chicago. John, welcome. Mark Davis, and happy Friday, and welcome to the Dennis Prager Show.
Hi, thanks for taking my call once again. I wanted to follow up on the previous caller who was objecting to the fact that Donald Trump had kowtowed to Vladimir Putin when they met in Helsinki and took his word over the highest levels of U.S. intelligence and law enforcement. That caller was not really armed with a lot of the facts. I'd like to share some of those facts with you.
See if you can do better. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, whether you like U.S. law enforcement and intelligence, the fact of the matter is that they unanimously say Russia meddled in our election in 2016 to help Trump. And Trump rejected that conclusion and sided with Putin. You can't change that.
What is the definition of meddling? What is your understanding of what that meddling was?
I'm glad you asked. In August of 2016, Trump's campaign manager, Paul Manafort, and his associate, Robert Gates, printed out internal Trump campaign polling data, including information regarding battleground states, and met with a Russian agent named Konstantin Kalimnik and gave him that information.
And what effect did that have? And what if? And what
we don't know.
We don't know. Then isn't it a bit of a leap to suggest? I mean, unless one defines meddling as any random meeting between people, if that suddenly constitutes meaningful meddling.
Sir,
so
no.
Give me something meaningful that actually mattered.
Okay, yeah, it was not a random meeting. It was a scheduled meeting with a Russian agent.
Something that had an effect.
I understand you don't really want to hear the answer to your question.
Dude, I'm asking. I am making you say things that make sense. What is something that actually mattered to the election result or had an effect on the election? Go.
We also know from American intelligence and law enforcement that Russia hacked a DNC server and illegally obtained internal DNC emails, which they distributed through WikiLeaks, which Donald Trump then celebrated and welcomed on the campaign trail. He thought it was wonderful. We also know that, can I continue? Can I tell you the other thing?
But here's the thing. I'm asking you for things and you are not supplying them. You're giving us electoral history, which is true, of what they did with the WikiLeaks thing. But did that have an effect on the election? Was it anything that actually involved meddling? I mean, dude, if that's meddling with the election, my Uncle Fred meddled in the election by planting a Facebook post. John, you hate Trump's guts. This law enforcement, this James Comey clapper cabal stands discredited, and so pick better heroes.
Donald Trump Jr. took a meeting with a Russian lawyer connected to Putin at Trump Tower to get information on Hillary Clinton.
Please tell me about more. Please share with me more delicious things of more meetings. Please give me meetings, and more meetings. And someday, if you're inclined, tell me something that mattered. But I love you. Mark Davis in for Dennis Prager. Back for another 2 hours of excitement on a Friday show. Stick around.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor page.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America. You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
Are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. We know exactly what's going on here. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
By the President of the United States, cut number 17.
The Republican Party is vastly diminished in numbers. The leadership of the Republican Party is fractured, and The Trump wing of the party is the bulk of the party, but it makes up a significant minority of the American people.
What do you make of that, Senator Cotton?
I think Joe Biden is trying to find excuses for his own failures in these first 4 months in office. If he wants to see divisions in a party, I suggest that he looks at the congressional wing of his party, where fringe progressives are saying that Joe Manchin is defending Jim Crow. The Democrats have FDR and LBJ-sized ambition. Unfortunately for them, they don't have FDR, LBJ-sized majorities. The House majority is the smallest it's been in almost a century. And the Senate, they don't even have a majority. It's evenly divided. Chuck Schumer is the Senate floor leader. He is not the majority leader because he only controls the Senate by virtue of Kamala Harris being available to come down to the Capitol and break a tie on close votes. So Joe Biden came into office with negative coattails, something far different from Donald Trump or Barack Obama or George Bush or Bill Clinton. And you're seeing that in the Congress right now. And I think that clip you just played from Joe Biden reflects his recognition that he simply doesn't have the votes to pass his far left agenda. I mean, I don't know why he's bringing it up overseas when he should be representing the United States and making foreign policy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Mark Shaw. The brand new book, Collateral Damage. You say very clearly that Robert F. Kennedy was behind the murder of Marilyn Monroe. Have you ever asked his son, RFK Jr., about that?
Well, the Kennedys clam up. They fold the tent. I've sent the reporter who knew too much and denial of justice to Caroline Kennedy because I wanted her to know that Dorothy Kilgallen basically was writing that book for Random House that was going to expose who really killed her father, and that she should know that basically after the wrong people knew that she was going to do that, that she was killed. I never heard from her. The Kennedys, they clam up about this. You would hope that they would want to know the truth. And I think my theories are the most plausible with regard to what happened. This book is a combination of 3 murder mysteries that really weren't mysteries at the time if anybody had done their homework and paid attention. Marilyn Monroe, everybody was screaming that she didn't commit suicide and all of that, yet no investigation. Dorothy Kilgallen the same way. JFK, that Warren Commission was just unbelievable. J. Edgar Hoover shouting Oswald alone, and then using the Warren Commission as a rubber stamp, no investigation again. So it's just unfortunate that, everybody deserves an investigation.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Democrats have spent the past year pursuing an obvious contradiction, calling for more gun control while also sympathizing with the defund the police movement. They've argued simultaneously and disingenuously that law-abiding Americans don't need firearms for self-defense because of the police. At the same time, they have provided support for those who want to scale back or entirely eliminate policing. The astounding new data on gun sales shows Americans aren't buying either argument. The New York Times reported that a record number of first-time purchasers have bought guns in the past year. Half of those are women, and 40% are evenly split between blacks and Hispanics. Household ownership percentage has spiked 7 points after years of remaining flat. Gun ownership has become even more diverse, and in many areas where police are in retreat, even more necessary. Joe Biden's gun control push will make his party look even more radical and even more out of touch. I'm Ed Morrissey.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
For the whole of the Cold War, was there ever a moment from the Berlin blockade of 1948 until the collapse of the Berlin Wall on November 9, 1989, was there one moment in that ideological standoff where 43% of the eastern seaboard's gas supply was shut down by Russians. Just once. I'm not talking about OPEC and Carter and price rising and gouging and a cartel activity out of the Middle East. I'm talking about actions by the Soviet Union that led to empty gas stations and gas lines. Was there? Not once. And that was the real Cold War. But now, you, Joe Biden, you think, oh, no, that lovely, lovely KGB colonel, he doesn't want a new Cold War. Then what happened a month ago, here in the nation's capital, when more than 80% of the gas stations had no gasoline? How's that for a real Cold War? How's the fact that there is a large part of the sovereign nation of Ukraine, called the Crimea, which belongs now through force, through the use of military might to the Russian Federation, not because of some plebiscite, not because of some civil.
It is Dennis Prager Show for this Friday, the 18th day of June. Mark Davison for Dennis from 660 a.m. The Answer, 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. All right, so we are in a kind of a multiple vibe here of taking your calls about anything you want from the week gone by or anything that pops in your head. And we're also sort of checking off the boxes on the big stories of the week gone by. I've talked a little bit about the Joe Biden European adventure. Let me lay down a layer of talk about the Juneteenth issue, our racial obsessions of late, which I will continue to contend are political obsessions, which is a good thing, because it's better to have differences based on our views than actual differences over skin color. We really don't have those anymore in any meaningful way. And if you're, oh, but Mark, everything is, on fire racially. No, it's really, really not. Because when you hear people on the left who are decrying certain things about whiteness, or it's what they are complaining about is conservatism. The, still roughly 85-90% Democrat voting members of, the American black community love Bill Clinton, love Joe Biden, got no use for Tim Scott or Clarence Thomas. It ain't about skin color. It's about politics. And these politics of the moment are what's driving absolutely everything. Even something that is as praiseworthy as an observation of the holiday that is technically tomorrow, Juneteenth. It is a Texas story. And it's also been a Texas holiday for decades, as it should be. It's just a shocking thing to think about. The Emancipation Proclamation itself was in the fall of 1862? Lincoln lays that down, freeing the slaves. Due to take effect January 1st of the year of our Lord, 1863. Well, they didn't have cable news. Didn't have social media, which is probably their benefit. But I will tell you, that means news did not travel fast. And there were slaves in Texas who still thought they were slaves through all of 1863. All of 1864. Into June 19th, in fact, in Galveston of 1865. It is a remarkable story, and it's one that should give us pause, and it's one that we should all appreciate. However, in the current environment of racial scolding, of the weaponization of everything, the evaporation of goodwill, anthem kneeling, finger pointing, America bashing, cop hating, there are millions of Americans of good faith and goodwill who've just had it. They're in no mood. And so, and from the delivering end, that's the receiving end, here's the delivering end of the Juneteenth holiday, to federalize that, make it a national holiday. In and of itself, in a vacuum, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you call it like some other derivation of Independence Day, what? We have an Independence Day. That's July 4th. That's an attempt to co-opt July 4th. It's an attempt to make this Juneteenth holiday part of this year of racial scolding, or reckoning, as many will call it. And so there are people who've said this. I'm not making this up. They will actually say one of the real values of this Juneteenth holiday, of the realization of this Juneteenth holiday in 2021, is not just the inherent value of celebrating and appreciating the history of Juneteenth and the actual final emancipation of the slaves. Oh, no. It's so that we can look back at 2021 and remember this year of racial reckoning, this punitive, condescending, offensive display that we've all been treated to for years from the left. And again, you notice I don't say from black people, because guess what? Ben Carson hadn't done this to us. But a whole lot of white people have. It's political and not racial. All right. So that's where we are. And it's just incredibly sad. And I long for the ability to talk about issues from race to anything else with goodwill and benefit of the doubt, and without cancel culture, and where people are free to speak their minds and agree and disagree in some constructive way. And I still believe that can happen. I'm almost 40 years doing this job. And that's what I've tried to do. Not like I'm, mega special. There are tons of people who do what I do who are trying to do exactly the same thing. And one of them is quite noticeably named Dennis Prager. And all of my SRN Salem colleagues do that every day in their talk show environments. So it is possible. In fact, it's really not even that hard. It just involves some basic decency and seeing decency in others and not weaponizing everything. All righty. 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. We are in Cortland, New York. Emma, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Good, great, Mark. Hi. I was thinking that we could have the best candidates on earth, and we actually might have the best candidates on earth, on the conservatives and Republicans, but we haven't done enough to secure our elections. I cringe every time I hear that word, knowing there's going to be another last-minute crisis or scam.
I know.
If we've learned nothing, it's that the Democrats are masters at seizing
They
the
are.
advantage
Never
and
let a crisis go to
manipulating it.
waste. So what we have right now, I think your concern is extremely valid. However, here's how you can you can be optimistic about it rather than pessimistic, but vigilant nonetheless. And that is to know that the national GOP under Ronna McDaniel, whom I continue to really admire, and various state Republican parties, not even all of them in red states, have armies of lawyers, legislators, people hitting the ground already. Why do you think that all of these election security measures in my state of Texas, in Florida, Georgia, why do you think they raise the hackles of so many on the left? Because they work. Because they are scared to death that their capacity for cheating has been mitigated. And that doesn't mean we rest on our laurels and go, all right, we got them on the ropes now. Yeah, we're good to go. Nope. When you have your boot on the neck of cheating, you stomp that boot down so that cheating is banished as best we can. It's a human system. It's a flawed system. There's always going to be flaws. There's always going to be some level of cheating. All we can do is do our best job to thwart it and make legal voting exactly as easy as it should be, and make cheating as hard as is humanly possible. And this is underway in all kinds of states, and I am confident about it. I admire the people who are doing it. I know a lot of the people who are doing it in my state. And so I'm going to, again, I ain't relaxed. I am vigilant, watching like a hawk, making sure that no one takes their eye off the ball of election integrity. And every time they call it voter suppression, it's a win. Every time they say we're trying to make it harder for people to vote, it's a win. Every time they lie about us, it's a win. Because they know at long last we are on to them. And in fact, you know what? Let's try this. Here's an exercise. National talk show. Tons of people listening. Lots of them. Agreeing, disagreeing. Part of what I love about any show that I do, either as my own show or hosting for Dennis or anybody else. I would love to hear right now from anywhere in America, anywhere, any corner, any precinct, anybody with a phone, to call me today and tell me the story of how you wanted to vote and could not. You wanted to vote. For all the world, you wanted to vote, but we just didn't give you enough weeks. We just didn't make it effortless enough. You just couldn't vote. There was a vote you wanted to cast. Maybe it was for Biden. Maybe it was for Trump. Maybe it was, maybe it was for Mickey Mouse. But you wanted to vote. And in this horrible country where it's so difficult to vote, where it's so impossible to do this basic task of our democracy, our republic, I would better say, you just couldn't vote. So I'll take those stories right now. At 1-8-PRAGER-776. Amid everything else we're doing, I want all the stories you can amass of people who wanted to vote and doggone it, you just couldn't. Oh, how I look forward to hearing those stories. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Mark Davis in for Dennis.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
We're talking to the author of a brand new book, Collateral Damage. The author is Mark Shaw. Mark, you were talking about Joseph Kennedy, the patriarch. Hard to imagine a darker figure. I mean, here's a guy involved in bootlegging. I mean, would you say that he was a criminal, or he just associated with criminals?
I think he was like a lot, back then, criminals or let's say the mafia or whatever, those guys were celebrities in many ways. Gianni can tell you that. They weren't looked upon as bad guys. I mean, Dorothy Kilgallen, a friend of hers was Frank Costello. She used to have lunch with him, and get information.
I haven't heard that. She would have lunch with Frank Costello?
Yeah. And he gave her you'll see in the book, he gave her a diamond ring. And it was so big, the diamond, that they went ahead and separated and made it into a bracelet or something. That's confirmed by her hairdresser. I mean, they were celebrities back then. Melvin Belli was a wannabe mafia guy. There were many people like to hang around them or say, Sinatra liked to do that. He would brag about the fact that he knew all these bad guys. It was kind of like an honor of some sort. And Joe Kennedy loved that during the bootlegging days and after that. And so all he had to do was say to Frank Sinatra, get in touch with Giancana, Marcello, those guys, help us win the 60 election, and then we'll leave those guys alone. And Joe Kennedy thought that, I'm going to show the mafia I'm bigger than you guys. I'm going to sick Bobby on you. Well, it cost him his son. It cost him JFK.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com. AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Let me ask you, if you regain the majority in 2022 for the Republicans, would the rule that you applied in 2016 to the Scalia vacancy apply in 2024 to any vacancy that occurred then?
Well, I think in the middle of a presidential election, if you have a Senate of the opposite party of the president, you have to go back to the 1880s to find the last time a vacancy was filled. So I think it's highly unlikely. In fact, no, I don't think either party, if it were different from the president, would confirm a Supreme Court nominee in the middle of an election. What was different in 2020 was we were of the same party as the president. Yeah. And that
Some vintage Beatles are a good idea, especially a McCartney vocal. The Greatness of She's a Woman, a controversial title today. Perhaps if the Beatles were around today, it'd be She Identifies as a Woman. I don't know. But I didn't offer that for the cheap joke. I offer it because it is Sir Paul McCartney's 79th birthday. How great is that? Oldest Beatle? Nope. John was older, but he's not around anymore. Ringo is. He's going to be 81 in a couple of weeks. Look at there. So we'll probably throw you a little more McCartney before we are done today. Maybe from solo stuff, some Wings, who knows what. Happy birthday, Sir Paul McCartney. All righty, as we work our way through a number of things that deserve attention today, here's one. Secret's out. People are abandoning their overpriced wireless carriers and flocking on over to Pure Talk for the same coverage, but a fraction of the cost. If you're with Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, switching to Pure Talk can save your family over like $800 a year. And switching is so easy. You can keep your phone, keep your number, or get big discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. Get a new iPhone 12. Service is great on those bad boys. Right now, get unlimited talk, text, 6 gigs of data for just $30 a month. And if you go over on data, they don't start charging you for it. There's a reason Pure Talk is the highest-rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, why they're the preferred wireless partner of AMAC. It is time to start saving money. From your cell phone, dial pound 250. Say Dennis Prager, pound 250, Dennis Prager, and you'll save an additional $50 off your first month. That's pound 250, Dennis Prager. Speak those words into your phone. And welcome to Pure Talk. All right, let's do some Pure Talk on the Pure phone lines at 1-8-Prager-776. 1-8-Prager-776. We're in Chicago. Robert, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, my name is Robert, and I'm calling from Chicago.
So I hear.
I have a comment that I would like for you to comment on.
Sure.
Remember when Donald Trump first got elected, and he was exchanging, words with Kim Jong-un of North Korea?
Yes.
And the dictator of North Korea kept referring to Donald Trump as a dotard.
Yes.
A feeble-minded old man.
Yes.
So I'm wondering what Kim Jong-un think of now that he actually got a dotard in office.
I know. I don't know. I have a feeling that, thank you for that comparative observation. The random wordplay back and forth. One of my favorite moments was when Kim Jong-un called Donald Trump old. I think he called him an old lunatic. I miss those days. And Trump tweeted back, why would Kim Jong-un insult me by calling me old? I'd never call him short and fat. Those were better days. And here's really why, and why I'm 1,000% serious about this. The Trump met Kim Jong-un, met Putin, meets these tyrants on the field of global interaction with sort of an ego to match. It's not a lot of fawning. There's not a lot of gamesmanship. Well, at least not strategic gamesmanship. There's attitudinal and personality-related gamesmanship. You call me something, guess what? So's your old man. And descending from that, after you sort of get those moments of bluster out of the way, then you kind of deal with somebody as a real human being, rather than as a paper tiger, rather than as a pretender, rather than as somebody doing a lot of posturing. And I'll just go back to this one more time. Joe Biden giving Vladimir Putin, here are 16 things, man. 16 things. You better not mess with those in terms of cyber attacks. Well, hey, thanks for supplying the 16 things that we're really the most worried about. Appreciate that strategically. And it also supposes that if it's not on the list, and I know it doesn't actually mean that it's okay to cyber attack those things, but it does mean that there's a certain hierarchy. Here's 16 things we're really upset about if you cyber attack them. These other things we're not quite as turned up about. And my silly theory is that an American president ought to sit down with Vladimir Putin and say, hey, a word about the cyber attacks? Stop it. Stop it. We know you can stop it. Stop it. And if you don't, we're going to assume you're not doing enough to stop it, and we will react commensurately. Alrighty. 1-8-Prager-776. We are in Chicago. Charlotte. Hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. Happy Friday. How are you?
Hi, fine, thanks. I'm calling about the Juneteenth holiday, currently passed in the middle of the night without hearings, public input. It bothers me that in February we moved the birthdays of President George Washington and President Abraham Lincoln and replaced these names with President's Day.
Right.
And, you know, how many presidents do we have? 46? Am I supposed to venerate Chester?
Actually 45, because Grover Cleveland was president twice. But go ahead.
Yeah, it just seems to me this was not done properly. You know, it was, of course, Abraham Lincoln that issued the Emancipation Proclamation. How about that date? He saved the country with the Civil War. General George Washington, won the Revolutionary War, our independence from Britain. We could celebrate. It sounds like at the Chinese Cultural Revolution, we're wiping out our statues, our history, our heroes, and replacing them with, well, fill in the definition, critical theory or whatever.
But it's funny. Now, the actual President's Day combination of Lincoln and Washington were that we used to kind of do Washington's actual birthday, which was February 22nd, still is, and Lincoln's actual birthday, which remains February 12th. And we said, well, they're 10 days apart. Let's just sort of subsume them up under a President's Day. Okay. And you can see how that makes sense. But here's an interesting thing. And I guess the notion was you didn't really have two distinct holidays so close together. Well, apparently that's okay now, because you can have Black Independence Day right 3 weeks before. What am I supposed to believe July 4th is now? White people's Independence Day? And that was part of people's objection to the nomenclature. And that was part of the weaponization of this whole Juneteenth thing. The Juneteenth holiday is a meaningful, wonderful thing. It is something that is so historically important, and it's kind of been hijacked, tainted by less than pure motives, because there were a whole lot of people who just wanted this to be shoehorned into 2021 as this year of racial reckoning. Well, I tell you what, if it's okay to have a Juneteenth federal holiday and then July 4th just moments later, maybe we need to separate George and Abe back out and give them each their own birthday 10 days apart. Why not? Why not? They're both deserving, one would presume. See how that debate goes. All righty, 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. Follow me on Twitter, @Mark Davis. And if you want a big chunk of me in book form, go to Amazon and get Upside Down, How the Left Turned Right into Wrong, Truth into Lies, Good into Bad. That's a lot of subtitle. Just do Mark Davis, Upside Down on Amazon. Grab that, enjoy that. Just a little good-humored, effective way to battle back against the left in daily life. Mark Davis in for Dennis Prager. Be right back.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Burka.
How does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin? You don't understand that. You're in the wrong business.
I don't think the meeting went very well, do you? I mean, that's a member of the lapdog media. That's Caitlin Collins. And how is the man responding to her who bears the title of President of the United States? What the hell do you do over there? First response, if you couldn't hear it. I know it's, it's a live TV coverage that was recorded from a distant mic. And then he said, what? You shouldn't be in this business? Biden, you shouldn't be in the White House.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Chinese Communist Party sent 28 planes into Taiwan airspace, the largest air flotilla ever, including 20 fighters and 4 nuclear-capable bombers and spy planes.
Well, simultaneously, we were having a hearing on the Armed Services Committee with the Chief of Naval Operations, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, the Acting Secretary of the Navy, and I asked all of them whether they agreed with Admiral Davidson's recent assessment that the PLA could make a move on Taiwan within the next 6 years. And they all agreed. So our highest naval officers are telling us that the situation in Taiwan is growing more dire, more urgent by the day, and the PLA saber rattling, I think, is going to continue to get worse as our adversaries perceive there to be a period of opportunity where they can test American deterrence and potentially get away with something as ambitious and bold as effectuating the unification of Taiwan with the mainland. I would also highlight a recent piece in Foreign Affairs by Oriana Schuyler Mastro called The Taiwan Temptation, in which she lays out all the reasons why she could actually make a move on Taiwan, some of the recent messaging from high-level PLA officers. All of these things I think are conspiring to create a situation in which, as American deterrence collapses, as America projects weakness on the world stage, the budget we have from the Biden administration is a joke. We're actually cutting the amount of money by $2 billion that we're using to build warships, and it should not surprise us that our adversaries are testing us in Taiwan and in other places around the world.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
United States Congress has finally found something they can agree on. United States Congress, of course, can't agree on whether or not the Constitution is a document worthy of honoring. They can't agree on whether or not they should curb inflation. They can't address the crisis on the southern border. They can't try to bring back manufacturing jobs to our country. But the one thing that Congress has decided to agree on, and every single senator voted in favor of this, was to create a new federal holiday. 14 members of the House of Representatives deserve credit for voting against this, and that is to create a new federal holiday called Juneteenth. Now, you might not have heard this before. Juneteenth.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
It is Friday. It is the Dennis Prager Show, and Dennis is back on Monday. Here with stewardship over the proceedings at the moment, Mark Davis from 660 AM, The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth. Hope your day is going great. I hope you have blessings for a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Let's dive back and see what people want to talk about in this segment. We are in the fine capital city of the Empire State, Albany, New York. And John, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Hello, sir, and greetings from the land of Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you so much.
You know, I know it's scary. I've been a long-time fan of Dr. Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali, people like that. Never heard the word Juneteenth come out of their mouth. Maybe it did. I never heard it, and I've read quite a bit about them and listened to them quite a bit along with other people. And why are we celebrating an inadequacy or a mistake? The proclamation, Lincoln's proclamation freed the slaves. And unfortunately, we didn't have an internet, and it took a while for word to get there to everybody. But I still think it should be the Emancipation Proclamation if we're going to celebrate the
really. So, and
the release of all the slaves.
I'd have to look it up. So maybe the September date in 1862, I think September, when he issued the proclamation, is a better day than June 19th. Okay,
I think.
I
without
think
a doubt.
People want to
And
do. I think here's what I think the rationale might be: that universally, the issuing of the Emancipation Proclamation is obviously significant on its own merit. The fact that it took more than 2 years to fully free the slaves because of the sloth of the dissemination of information. The last slave became aware of his freedom on June 19th, 1865. So that's when the process really was complete. The proclamation started it. Juneteenth was the realization of it, the full realization of it. So I can kind of get that.
Yeah, and I mean, let's just talk about freeing the slaves. It took a lot to get it done.
Yep.
And, we should be pleased with that, obviously. But I think, VJ Day was VJ Day. That was it. Okay? It was declared VJ Day, end of discussion, war over. Not, when this happened or when that happened. Other things had to happen, too. But it's ironic to me that, some people that want to erase Abraham Lincoln want to, celebrate Juneteenth, which there would be no Juneteenth if it wasn't for Abraham Lincoln.
I think Lincoln remains, I think among those crowds, the crowds of people involved in the celebration of Juneteenth, which ought to be everybody, that Lincoln remains pretty popular. But in fact, your VJ Day, Victory Over Japan, in a way you might think that Juneteenth is kind of VS Day. To not to be too glib, but that was when victory over slavery was finally realized, when the last slave finally recognized, wow. And, I'll tell you, I'm sorry, I can't help but put myself back, in the shoes of the people who learned that. It's, okay, this may be an extremely clumsy comparison. Ride with me here. You hear about the people who are in jail for X number of years, and then it's suddenly revealed that they were innocent, and they're let out of jail after, 5-10 years? What's the first emotion that occurs to you? Is it incredible joy that I'm finally going to be out of jail, or unbelievable, irrepressible anger because it was so unjust that you were there in the first place? Now, analogous to slavery, those slaves in Galveston, 1865. What? I'm sorry, what? Oh, we're free? Excellent. And I'm sorry, the Lincoln freed us when? Oh, really? So and again, I don't want to be too glib about this, but so let me just phrase it in a very straightforward way. That June 19th, 1865 day, I can only presume was met with a rush of several emotions. Maybe most of them groupable under two headings: unbelievable joy at the fresh air of freedom, and a little bit of a hurt to the heart that it took so long to learn it. Alrighty, 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. Rather than give somebody short shrift, let me just give you the phone number, and a lot of people are using it, and so we'll hit our break here in just a momento, and then we'll come back and see what you want to say. If you want to throw me a little thing or two on Twitter, that is at Mark Davis, at M-A-R-K Davis, and always DennisPrager.com, DennisPrager.com, for things that are going on in the world of Dennis. Dennis will be back on Monday. And if you want to follow things that I do here at the local station, 660 AM, TheAnswer.com. My actual program is on from 7 to 10 Central Time each day, and that's why it's such a joy to knock that program out before I go, run grab a McMuffin and come back and do this program. So it's always a joy to be here for Dennis. So we're talking a little of just the various stories of the week gone by. Biden in Europe, the Juneteenth designation. We'll do we've done some election integrity, just various things. It is one of these opportunities to tie a bow around the week's news. So we'll continue. Mark Davis in for Dennis next.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Democrats have spent the past year pursuing an obvious contradiction, calling for more gun control while also sympathizing with the defund the police movement. They've argued simultaneously and disingenuously that law-abiding Americans don't need firearms for self-defense because of the police. At the same time, they have provided support for those who want to scale back or entirely eliminate policing. The astounding new data on gun sales shows Americans aren't buying either argument. The New York Times reported that a record number of first-time purchasers have bought guns in the past year. Half of those are women, and 40% are evenly split between blacks and Hispanics. Household ownership percentage has spiked 7 points after years of remaining flat. Gun ownership has become even more diverse, and in many areas where police are in retreat, even more necessary. Joe Biden's gun control push will make his party look even more radical and even more out of touch. I'm Ed Morrissey.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
For the whole of the Cold War, was there ever a moment from the Berlin blockade of 1948 until the collapse of the Berlin Wall on November 9, 1989, was there one moment in that ideological standoff where 43% of the eastern seaboard's gas supply was shut down by Russians? Just once. I'm not talking about OPEC and Carter and price rising and gouging and a cartel activity out of the Middle East. I'm talking about actions by the Soviet Union that led to empty gas stations and gas lines. Was there? Not once. And that was the real Cold War. But now, you, Joe Biden, you think, oh, no, that lovely, lovely KGB colonel, he doesn't want a new Cold War. Then what happened a month ago here in the nation's capital when more than 80% of the gas stations had no gasoline? How's that for a real Cold War? How's the fact that there is a large part of the sovereign nation of Ukraine called the Crimea, which belongs now through force, through the use of military might to the Russian Federation, not because of some plebiscite, not because of some civil war, because Russia took it by force. How is it that there are still Russian troops across Syria meddling? Oh, yes, they're just contractors. They're private citizens. They're, I don't know, on holiday.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Did you see President Biden completely shut down while being asked a question by a member of the media this week about Vladimir Putin? And then his answer was completely incoherent. This is the 46th president of the United States. This is the man who's representing the country to the world. You have to hear this, cut one. Here was President Biden being asked by a reporter, what do you say about Vladimir Putin? What's and you got to hear this. This is unbelievable.
What do you say to Vladimir Putin?
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too. They actually,
I'm going to lose 5. Tired point. Dennis Prager Show for this Friday, the 18th of June. Mark Davis filling in from steamy Texas, but not as steamy. Well, Arizona, not steamy. Decidedly not steamy. Ugh, 100, what do you got? 115, 117? What do we got going on here? Hang on a second. I will fire off all y'all's Alexas, but let's do. Hang on a second. I got this thing in the room with me. Alexa, what's the temperature in Phoenix, Arizona?
Right now, in Phoenix, Arizona, it's 104 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh.
Today, expect a high of 116 degrees.
Dude. Oh, man. Man, oh man, oh man. I know a lot of folks in Phoenix, and you get some of those stories of just like car dashboards just exploding under the pressure of the furnace-like heat inside your car. So anyway, Climate 101. I've got a lot of calls. Let me knock through some of these, and then why everybody who approaches you today and says, well, 114 degrees in Phoenix must be climate change, why they're full of it, just in one handy, usable package for you. 1-8-Prager-776. So I asked a couple of segments ago, amid all this, all of our discussions about election integrity and the lies about voter suppression, I wanted to hear from people who wanted to vote and couldn't. So is this an attempt at that? Let's find out. We are in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Hey, Nick, Mark Davison for Dennis. Welcome. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Great. What's your story?
Yeah, so this is actually the primaries from 2016 election.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the polling place that I have gone to since I was 18, and they had changed the voter ID rights, or voter ID, which is totally fine. And I had changed addresses, obviously, since I was 18, and they did not let me vote.
Ooh, okay.
So it was 100% my fault. I was just letting you know that it does happen.
Well, we just saved ourselves a lot of time. So thank you. My point was not a clearinghouse of people who had made mistakes. And good for this gentleman for identify for the self-own there. No, my point here is that I'm asking for people who wanted to vote and couldn't because of the horrible racist country. People who wanted to vote and couldn't because of our disgustingly restrictive voting laws. People who wanted to vote and couldn't because they were suppressed. That's what I'm looking for. And my suggestion is, I ain't going to find it. Now, if I do, well, holy cow, I'll be the first to herald that development here on the Dennis Prager Show. Mark Davison for Dennis, 1-8-Prager-776. Alrighty, we are in California. Mr. Tom. Hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you, sir?
Hey, thank you, Mark. 2 quick points. Number one, what you said earlier reminded me of a great verse in a great country singer, Merle Haggard. Song is called Rainbow Stew.
Yes.
One of the verses said, when a president walks through the White House door, does what he says he'll do, we'll all be drinking that great bubble up and eating that rainbow stew. And by
supposition. Exactly right. And it's funny. I mean, I don't know if this was a direct path to Trump, but one of the reasons he's loved and one of the reasons he's hated is there were things he said he was going to do, and he did them.
And the more important point, that's right, Mark, the much more important point leads to what is so ominous in this country. We are about to lose this great nation. Why? Because in effect, we lost Trump. I know he was brash, had a big ego, had a lot of faults. God knows we all do. But he believed in God, and he defended what has been throughout history, a God-based America. Sure, the nation's done horrible things. Slavery was an abomination and evil. But we repented. We got redemption. That's the name of Christianity. Your prayer is beautiful. You reinforce that. I'm getting more into that, much more as I live my life. And good. Trump loved America and stood up for the Constitution, the Declaration. He banned critical race theory, and we are under now withering attack from people who are absolute Marxists. And Marx loved the devil. You look at critical race theory based on hate. We're all God's children. Critical race theory says, no, we got black, white. We are told to love each other, and that's what Trump reinforced. If we don't get back to God, Mark, and repent and go back to loving each other and stopping the hate, the cancel culture, the racism crap, maybe MAGA means make America God-based again.
Listen, I'll take that acronym all day, too. Thank you, Tom. There you go. Free Bubble Up. That rainbow stew, the great Merle Haggard. What is Bubble Up? Bubble Up is a lemon lime soft drink, and it was originally out of the Sweet Valley Products Company of Sandusky, Ohio, but now it's manufactured by the Dad's Root Beer Company. I think you can still find it on the shelf, and it is decidedly not free. right, 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. We are in Aiken, South Carolina. Raymond, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Oh, good. Yourself, Mr. Davis. I hope you're doing good.
Sure.
I do apologize for the noise. It's noise in a semi, but
it's the sound of working.
Your
I love
opinion on June 19th. The day itself should be greatly honored. My opinion is I don't think Congress or government agencies need another paid holiday to sit at home doing nothing.
I know, and it's funny. I had somebody reply to me on Twitter about this. Hey, it's another holiday. What's wrong with that? I said, well, I said, listen, we need to pick one thing or another. First choice is we have enough federal holidays. No more, just no more for anything. We're maxed out. We're good here. I mean, we can have other recognitions, other traditions, but we're not going to have any more days off federal holidays. That's choice number one. Choice number two is let's come up with about 50 or 60 more so that government is so absent that it interrupts all of their opportunities to screw up our lives. Pick one. Raymond, thank you. Best in South Carolina and safe travels. One of them is very tongue-in-cheek. I think I think I'm good on federal holidays, man. I mean, there are all kinds of ways. And it's funny because does the day off really make it special? I mean, we just came through Memorial Day. Was Memorial Day special because you had the day off? Or because there was a mattress sale down the road? Or was Memorial Day special because you remembered those who had laid down their lives so that we can be free? That's what makes it special. Tomorrow is Juneteenth itself. It'll be a Saturday. You're likely to be off anyway. Is that what makes it special, or the memory of what it means to history? Just saying. Mark Davis, in for Dennis.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. We know exactly what's going on here. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
By the President of the United States, cut number 17.
The Republican Party is vastly diminished in numbers. The leadership of the Republican Party is fractured, and the Trump wing of the party is the bulk of the party, but it makes up a significant minority of the American people.
What do you make of that, Senator Cotton?
I think Joe Biden is trying to find excuses for his own failures in these first 4 months in office. If he wants to see divisions in a party, I suggest that he looks at the congressional wing of his party, where fringe progressives are saying that Joe Manchin is defending Jim Crow. The Democrats have FDR and LBJ-sized ambition. Unfortunately for them, they don't have FDR, LBJ-sized majorities. The House majority is the smallest it's been in almost a century. And the Senate, they don't even have a majority. It's evenly divided. Chuck Schumer is the Senate floor leader. He is not the majority leader because he only controls the Senate by virtue of Kamala Harris being available to come down to the Capitol and break a tie on close votes. So Joe Biden came into office with negative coattails, something far different from Donald Trump or Barack Obama or George Bush or Bill Clinton. And you're seeing that in the Congress right now. And I think that clip you just played from Joe Biden reflects his recognition that he simply doesn't have the votes to pass his far left agenda. I mean, I don't know why he's bringing it up overseas when he should be representing the United States and making foreign policy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Digging deep, little Junior's Farm, McCartney and Wings on Paul's 79th birthday. All righty, 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776, breaking religious news. U.S. Catholic bishops have overwhelmingly approved the drafting of a teaching document. What might this teaching document seek to teach? A lot of them hope it will rebuke Catholic politicians. Gee, who comes to mind? Joe Biden. Who else? Nancy Pelosi, for receiving communion despite their support for abortion rights. The vote was 168 to 55, announced near the end of a 3-day meeting of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops that was held virtually. The bishops had cast their votes privately on Thursday. Supporters of the measure said a strong rebuke of Biden was needed because of his recent actions protecting and expanding abortion access. Opponents warned that such action would portray the bishops as a partisan force. Stop it. Stop it. The bishops are not acting as a partisan force. The bishops are acting as a voice for Christ. They are acting as being representatives of what God himself teaches. They are representing Scripture. They don't want Biden. We're not talking about excommunicating him. We're talking about communion, which supposes good standing with the faith, aligning oneself with the faith. One cannot be aligned with Catholic faith in good standing if one is cavalier about the slaughter of the unborn. It's simply not possible. Now, just so happens that all these not all of them are there pro-choice Republicans? Yeah. Are there that is social conservatism, I guess, but it's also scriptural behavior, scriptural attitude. So, and I don't say this with an ounce of venom or vitriol. Catholicism teaches that abortion is a moral outrage. And if you, as a politician, heck, if you as a bricklayer, if you as a talk show host, you as a dental assistant are, not so much. If you don't agree with that part of teaching, and I don't want to hear for 1 second about someone who says, well, I believe that, but I'm not going to, force that view on others. Yeah, try that on slavery, which we're all talking about today. Well, I don't favor slavery, but if somebody else wants to own a view, that's okay. Yeah, see how that would work. So the U.S. Catholic bishops taking this step toward what would be a possible rebuke of Joe Biden. And again, this is not something that I support this 1,000%. Not because I've got it in for Biden or don't like him or Pelosi drives me nuts, which she does. And boy, have I got a piece of audio, a ghoulish piece of audio. Somebody asked Nancy Pelosi, is that baby at 15 weeks, is that a separate human life? I'll play that for you next as well. So we're carrying a bunch of things into the next hour. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Stick around.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years. and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Let me ask you, if you regain the majority in 2022 for the Republicans, would the rule that you applied in 2016 to the Scalia vacancy apply in 2024 to any vacancy that occurred then?
Well, I think in the middle of a presidential election, if you have a Senate of the opposite party of the president, you have to go back to the 1880s to find the last time a vacancy was filled. So I think it's highly unlikely. In fact, no, I don't think either party, if it were different from the president, would confirm a Supreme Court nominee in the middle of an election. What was different in 2020 was we were of the same party as the president, and that's why we went ahead with it.
That's why I think people who are anxious about Justice Breyer stepping down right now are just nuts. If he retired next year after the abortion case, I just don't see him retiring with Dobbs and the Second Amendment on the docket and possibly affirmative action. Now, let me ask you about the key thing, leader, about the 2023 term. Again, if you were back as the Senate Republican leader, and I hope you are, and a Democrat retires at the end of 2023, and there are 18 months, that would be the Anthony Kennedy precedent. Would they get a fair shot at a hearing? Not a radical, but a normal mainstream liberal?
Well, we'd have to wait and see what happens. You mentioned Justice Breyer. I do want to give him a shout out, though, because he joined what Justice Ginsburg said in 2019, that 9 is the right number for the Supreme Court.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Yeonmi Park is her name, the North Korean defector. She says, I've seen oppression. I know what it looks like. She said, these kids, Colombia, keep saying that they're oppressed. How much injustice have they experienced? They don't know how hard it is to be free, she said. I literally crossed through the middle of the Gobi Desert to be free. She published her memoir in 2015 called In Order to Live, where she described what it took to survive in one of the world's most brutal dictatorships and her journey to freedom. So now she's in Colombia. And she says she's struck by what she thought was anti-Western sentiment in the classroom and the focus on political correctness. She said, quote, even North Korea isn't this nuts. I'm quoting her. I expected that I was paying this fortune, all this time and energy to learn how to think. But they are forcing you to think the way they want you to think. I realized, wow, this is insane. I thought America was different. But I saw so many similarities to what I saw in North Korea that I started worrying. Going to Colombia, the first thing I learned, she said, was the term safe space. Quote, I thought North Koreans were the only people who hated Americans, but it turns out there are a lot of people hating this country in this country. She said, this is what happens when you are brainwashed.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
And how is the man responding to her who bears the title of President of the United States? What the hell do you do over there? First response, if you couldn't hear it. I know it's a live TV coverage that was recorded from a distant mic. And then he said, what? You shouldn't be in this business? Biden, you shouldn't be in the White House. And then second of all, what did he say about geopolitics in Russia? I have no confidence in anything. Neither do we, as long as you're the president. So don't lecture us by telling us what you think Putin does or doesn't want. Because this clip 4, is patently untrue. Play cuts.
I think that the last thing he wants now is a Cold War.
Based on the fact, I mean, let's just add some historic context. For the whole of the Cold War, was there ever a moment from the Berlin blockade of 1948 until the collapse of the Berlin Wall on November 9th, 1989, was there one moment in that ideological standoff where 43% of the eastern seaboard's gas supply was shut down by Russians? Just once. I'm not talking about OPEC and Carter and price rising and gouging and a cartel activity out of the Middle East.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Let's.
It is the Dennis Prager Show on this Friday, 18th of June. Mark Davis in for Dennis from 6:60 a.m. The Answer, DFW. There's a sweet collaboration. These guys have a catalog together, don't they? Say, McCartney and Michael Jackson on Paul McCartney's 79th birthday. Happy birthday to Sir Paul. And I'm just going to pivot right back to your calls. We got all kinds of stuff going on. I brought up a bunch of stuff, but you guys are supplying quality material today. On the phone lines, 1-8-Prager-776. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. I'm ducking in there during the commercial breaks, seeing what people are leaving of interest. And obviously, DennisPrager.com is the place to go for all things Dennis, and he will be back on Monday. We're in Chicago. Rich, how are you, sir? Welcome and happy Friday. Mark Davis in for Dennis. How you doing?
Good, Mark. How are you? It's nice talking to you again. I've talked to you before.
Thanks.
And you always have a great show when you fill in. Thanks for that.
Appreciate it.
The question that I have for you is, what did you think of the comment of the mayor of Chicago when she said that racism is a public health crisis?
Yes, sir. Oh, Lord. Okay, let me give you, this might be about 60 seconds. Let me give you my full thought on that, and then I'll give it right back to you and see if there's anything you'd like to add. Lori Lightfoot yesterday declared systemic racism, which is a myth, declared it a public health crisis. So it's a myth on top of a tactic. Declaring something, and I guess racism is the thing du jour to declare a health crisis. We've been through a year and a fraction of an actual health crisis, so that's going to resonate with everybody. So all of a sudden, your thing that you want to make either worse than it is, or you want to attract a bunch of attention to, let's make it a health crisis. Because, hey, anything that's bad, anything that upsets people, anything that harms people, surely that can be perceived as having an adverse effect on health. I could say cancel culture is a health crisis, because it certainly gives people indigestion to be unfairly kicked off of YouTube, or any one of a number of things. Livelihoods have been ruined by cancel culture, and that certainly made them feel bad. So I could certainly call cancel culture a health crisis, except it's not. That's an attitudinal thing, an ideological thing. Racism is an attitudinal thing. It's a horrible thing to have in your heart. Relatively few people still do or admit it. And so this Lori Lightfoot tactic of declaring systemic racism a public health crisis is an attempt to portray, again, our country is a racist hellhole. It is something that can only be cured by the benevolence of Democrat politicians. Okay, your turn.
Okay. The thing that I don't understand is, why doesn't she mention all of the mass shootings in Chicago and all of the young kids that are being killed every day? Every morning that I wake up, I listen to the news, and somebody else has been shot in Chicago but they never really look into it.
No, I
but
guess
everything else is racist.
It'd be the easiest glib thing for me to say, but it's true. Those black lives apparently don't matter. Rich, thanks. And I will say that a lot of people have referred to, the shootings, like America's, gun violence, as a public health issue. And that's interesting because you can almost get away with that one because getting shot definitely affects your health. But even that's misplaced. That's a crime problem. It is obviously a human problem. We do not have a gun problem. We have a people problem in America. And any spate of gun violence is not first and foremost you know what a public health issue is? A virus. A virus is a public health issue. The flu is a public health issue. AIDS was a public health issue. All kinds of things that are actually about our daily maintenance of and threats to our health on for its own sake, on its own terms, not because you got shot, or not because racism upset you, or because, cancel culture, ruined your day. That does not make those things public health crises. Good grief. All righty, let's see here. We are in Arlington, Texas. David. Hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How you doing?
Hey, Mark. I listen to you in the mornings on my way to work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I was just calling about the Juneteenth thing. I feel like if they're going to make it a national holiday, it's a little misplaced. I agree with the guy that called earlier from Albany who said that the Emancipation Proclamation is probably a better date. We celebrate the 4th of July on the 4th of July because that's when the Declaration of Independence was signed.
Well, okay, whatever. I mean, if somebody wanted to, so June 19th is problematic, but if it were September, celebrating the day in 1862 when Lincoln actually freed the slaves, that would be okay.
No. I don't have a problem with anyone celebrating Juneteenth. That's fine. I just think it's misplaced. If you're going to go make it a national holiday and say it's going to happen on June 19th, I feel like that's more of a Texas thing because it happened in Galveston.
Well, but the reason it becomes a national thing because the last slave to become aware of emancipation happened to be in Texas. It was quite the national story, and certainly remains quite the national story. The significance of this in Galveston, here in my state, if the last slave happened to be in Louisiana, if the last slave happened to be in Arkansas, then that's where the story would have that was the point, the historical point at which there were no slaves left who did not know they were free. 1-8 Prager 776. We are in. Where you want to go? Let's go to Northfield, Illinois. Rob, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you doing?
Hey, Mark, thanks for taking my call.
Hi.
Enjoying your show. That guy that called in about the DNC, or the Russia hacked the DNC.
Right, and the WikiLeaks stuff, you bet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the people on the left, they never dispute the level of truth in the stuff. The defense is always, wait a second, you weren't supposed to see this. He even said himself, he didn't say that it was false. That Hillary got the questions to that CNN town hall or something in 2016. She got them ahead of time. You would have thought that'd be a story, but they just defended it. That's Russian propaganda.
You would think, and you would be wrong. And, thank you, man. Appreciate it very much. All righty. We are in Detroit City. Hey, Dale. Mark Davis, how are you? In for Dennis, how you doing?
Hey, not too bad. Hey, two calls back, you're just talking about the last person to, June 19th being that's when the last slave
last
was.
Slave. Uh-huh.
Well, by that logic, and you were talking about comparing it to VJ days, well, the last Japanese soldier to surrender was 1974, March 9th.
That's
so
right.
that when we should be celebrating the end of the World War II?
The guy who hid out in the Philippines for 30 years, right?
Yes. So by that logic, I would also better date is
I don't know if that's necessarily apples and apples. I mean, so we don't do VJ Day until the last guy surrendered. I was Googling while you were talking. Hiro Onoda, bless his heart, he lived to be 91, lived till 2014, but in 1944, he was having none of it. And even in 1945, as the war's VJ Day came and went, he and about 3 buddies hid out in the Philippines, and they said, nope, we ain't giving up. And a bunch of leaflets. The Japanese commanders dropped leaflets that said, we've surrendered. We're done here. Come on out. They thought it was a trick. And of the 2 or 3 other guys, they all started dying off. Mr. Onoda said, no, nope, I'm not surrendering. I am not. Oh, and by the way, this might seem a little glib, but it's not. It's true. Mr. Onoda refusing to surrender for 30 years is exactly why we had to drop the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These folks were never going to surrender. And historians who are honest with you and with themselves and with us know that whatever the death toll was of the dropping of the atomic bombs in 1945, it is fewer people dead than would have been dead not just among Americans, but among Japanese, had the war continued under conventional terms. They were never going to surrender. All righty, we're in Easley, South Carolina. Cheryl, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How you doing?
I'm great, Mark. How are you today?
Great, super, thank you.
I was just making the comment, and I don't know if somebody has said it before, but a thought that maybe the reason they don't want to celebrate the Emancipation Proclamation on the day it was signed is because then we'd have to celebrate a Republican president who did it.
That's right. And who freed them? The first Republican. Thank you very much for the reminder. All righty. Well, let me remind you that Dennis will be back on Monday. We've got another 45 or so minutes left. Let's see what kind of delightful things we can do in that time. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Grab a line there at 1-8-PRAGER-776. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis, M-A-R-K Davis. Grab my book, Upside Down, How the Left Turned Right into Wrong, Truth into Lies, Good into Bad. Just do Upside Down, Mark Davis, on Amazon. Grab it, love it, read it. Let me know what you think. Back in a moment.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Understand that you're in the wrong place.
I don't think the meeting went very well, do you? I mean, that's a member of the lapdog media. That's Caitlin Collins. And how is the man responding to her who bears the title of President of the United States? What the hell do you do over there? First response, if you couldn't hear it. I know it's, it's a live TV coverage that was recorded from a distant mic. And then he said, what? You shouldn't be in this business? Biden, you shouldn't be in the White House.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Chinese Communist Party sent 28 planes into Taiwan airspace, the largest air flotilla ever, including 20 fighters and 4 nuclear-capable bombers and spy planes.
Well, simultaneously, we were having a hearing on the Armed Services Committee with the Chief of Naval Operations, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, the Acting Secretary of the Navy, and I asked all of them whether they agreed with Admiral Davidson's recent assessment that the PLA could make a move on Taiwan within the next 6 years. And they all agreed. So our highest naval officers are telling us that the situation in Taiwan is growing more dire, more urgent by the day, and the PLA saber rattling, I think, is going to continue to get worse as our adversaries perceive there to be a period of opportunity where they can test American deterrence and potentially get away with something as ambitious and bold as effectuating the unification of Taiwan with the mainland. I would also highlight a recent piece in Foreign Affairs by Oriana Schuyler Mastro called The Taiwan Temptation, in which she lays out all the reasons why she could actually make a move on Taiwan, some of the recent messaging from high-level PLA officers. All of these things I think are conspiring to create a situation in which, as American deterrence collapses, as America projects weakness on the world stage, the budget we have from the Biden administration is a joke. We're actually cutting the amount of money by $2 billion that we're using to build warships, and it should not surprise us that our adversaries are testing us in Taiwan and in other places around the world.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
United States Congress has finally found something they can agree on. United States Congress, of course, can't agree on whether or not the Constitution is a document worthy of honoring. They can't agree on whether or not they should curb inflation. They can't address the crisis on the southern border. They can't try to bring back manufacturing jobs to our country. But the one thing that Congress has decided to agree on, and every single senator voted in favor of this, was to create a new federal holiday. 14 members of the House of Representatives deserve credit for voting against this, and that is to create a new federal holiday called Juneteenth. Now, you might not have heard this before. Juneteenth.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Portions of the Dennis Prager Show are brought to you by Sierra Pacific.
Yes, they are. Dennis will be back on Monday, and we are here together today. Mark Davis, 660 AM The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth. Great to have you here. All right, let's dive back into some calls. Multifaceted stuff from you guys. It's been a wonderful day on the phones, and I appreciate it. Let us head to Pomona, California, and Alan, that is you. Welcome. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Happy Friday. Oh, my gosh. All that build up for nothing. All right, that will accrue to the benefit of Mark in Wyandotte, Michigan. Hey, Mark. Mark Davison for Dennis. How you doing?
Good. Thank you, Mark. Hey, with all the talk lately of reparations and Juneteenth and all that, I've heard in conversations people comparing the Holocaust to slavery, or slavery to the Holocaust, actually. Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering if that's a legitimate argument or not.
I'm going to give you a really simple couple of sentences here and see what you think of them. It takes us nowhere good to play Can You Top This with moments of moral outrage, all right, or with examples of moral outrage. In the Holocaust, you have a pretty concentrated period of time that had a death toll of millions, result of Hitler's evil and an unspeakable thing, okay? Slavery, of course, is a story written over centuries that involved the enslavement of countless people, a terrible abrogation of their basic rights of freedom. The wise person stops right there, and if anyone seeks to say, okay, which one was worse? Well, let's see where that takes you. It takes you down just an incredibly poisonous rabbit hole where people say things like, well, the point of the Holocaust was like to really kill people, and they're like dead and stuff. Slavery, the whole point wasn't to kill them; it was just to like enslave them. So like that's not as bad. And then you get somebody who goes, "Oh yeah, okay. Well, how about this? The Holocaust was just like like a decade plus, or slavery was like hundreds of years. So like, isn't that work?" So I think I've illustrated how that doesn't get anybody to any good destination. There is no inherent need to take horrible historical chapter number 1 and horrible historical chapter number 2 and like compare them as if you're in a Final Four bracket. So that would be my thought. What's yours?
Well, my only thought was what you already mentioned was that they had two different purposes. one was to eliminate an entire race of people.
Okay, yes.
So,
all right, go ahead.
and the other thing is, though, people will bring it up as somehow to justify whatever kind of wild idea they have for, I'll use their term, equity. So they bring that up.
Yeah,
well, look what happened.
And there is, and the Holocaust in particular is like a go-to reference point for anybody seeking to accentuate their own point. I mean, I don't know. Anything that's horrible that happened to people is a Holocaust for this group of people, and sometimes it's there's just no need for that. History concretely views slavery through the backward-looking lens as a terrible thing. Sadly, there are people who don't believe we've made progress about that, and who don't believe that we are enlightened or that we've learned from that or that we've grown as a society. You know what? This gets me to a moment where let's talk about somebody who is of interest in the news lately, and that is Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is so right on so many issues, and her conservatism is praiseworthy, and she's correct on a bunch of things. Maybe not the most thoughtful person in the world, because I think she was going off on a riff on COVID restrictions or something, points I might well have agreed with her about. But it was her point was it's like I guess it was the vaccination card or the whatever, or the Vax passport or something like that. That was somehow sort of like the gold star that was emblazoned on the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto. Yeah, that was not a good day for Marjorie. You know what she did the other day? Apparently, after a visit to the Holocaust Museum, came out and apologized. That is exactly what a good person does. I will await such apologies from Ilhan Omar, from the people who savaged Trump so cruelly, from the people who condemn conservatives in person, by person, with violence. I'll await their apologies as well. And I feel like I'll be waiting a long time. All righty, we are in Los Angeles. Marcia. Hey, Marcia. Sorry, I'm sure you get that a lot. I apologize. Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Some great calls here. Yeah, I would just like to say that Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, and he started the whole thing going by finding out what the Aztecs were doing, and that got word over to Europe and the missionaries and blah, 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 and all these things. It was the culture of the times to have slavery, and you mentioned that in many of your other callers.
Yeah, right. Columbus takes Columbus gets a raw deal. He was a 15th century guy. And it's interesting, is the story of the arrival of Columbus and the subsequent explorers and the arrival of all the European folk for the establishment of this country. Does it go well for the indigenous peoples? You could argue, they were on the receiving end of an arrival that did not bode well for their status quo, and that's fair. That's historically true. If at the final result, you wind up with the greatest country the world has ever known, is that somewhat redemptive? I mean, it doesn't make bad things good, or it doesn't make anything look more palatable through 21st century values. But one of the dumbest, most historically illiterate things we can do is look back at the actions of the 15th century or the 19th century and look at them through the lens of the way we feel about things today. Slavery in the mid-1800s was something you could have a debate about. People could show up and people in the room would go, that's a bad thing. Others would say, it's a good thing. And they would have it out. And obviously the people who said it's a bad thing wound up prevailing, that's good, wound up on what we call the right side of history. But that's just the point. It is history. It was a journey. Walking around like hopping into a time tunnel and popping out in some pre-Civil War year, like 1855, and saying, "What's the matter with you people? Some of you are in favor of slavery." They'd say, "Yeah." And I'll tell you something. This may be an analogy you'll accept or not. Right now, there are people walking around saying slaughtering the unborn is okay. Well, I'm pro-choice, man. I'm pro-choice. Okay. I will tell you, I long for a day, and I hope it's not 100 years from now, where we look back on being cavalier about life in the womb with the same dark retroactive opinion that we have of people who were okay with slavery in the 19th century. Maybe that's the next journey of enlightenment we need to go on. Speaking of which, well, a journey of enlightenment Nancy Pelosi would do well to travel, as we hear her ghoulish comment asked if a 15-week-old baby is a human being. Her answer will chill you, and you'll hear it next. Mark Davis in for Dennis.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Did you see President Biden completely shut down while being asked a question by a member of the media this week about Vladimir Putin? And then his answer was completely incoherent. This is the 46th president of the United States. This is the man who's representing the country to the world. You have to hear this. Cut one. Here was President Biden being asked by a reporter, what do you say about Vladimir Putin? What's and you got to hear this. This is unbelievable.
What do you say to Vladimir Putin?
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too. They actually,
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
That government did not come before man. Men create government. It is out of our natural state that we voluntarily, through the consent of the governed, create this system. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, another word for practical judgment or wisdom, indeed will dictate that governments long established shall not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to the right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. And so what is the philosophical reason that BLM Incorporated and Patrisse Cullors and Ibram X. Kendi, why are they so excited to have Juneteenth? Why do they want this so badly? Why are they lobbying for it? Well, for a very simple reason. For the rest of your life, June 19th will now be a day around racial identity politics. BLM Incorporated now has a federal holiday. You see, under the disguise that it's all about emancipation, which it isn't, they are now going to use this as a gateway to teach you false history and to pause the nation, to have all the cars stop in the streets and say, now we need to talk about our racial past. Well, yeah, let's talk about our racial past. Happy to.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
It's a leader of the free world. The commander-in-chief. He couldn't, I mean, that was painful. Incidentally, speaking of painful, a reporter yesterday in Houston, local Fox reporter named Ivory Hecker. You got to hear this. Everybody loves it when people go off script and TV reporters do something off script. Here's cut 3. Listen to this reporter who was going to do a report on the heat wave. The heat wave, Ivory Hecker, listen to this. And they throw to her to ask her about the hot weather. Listen to what she says.
Outages across the region. Fox 26 reporter Ivory Hecker is live in Montgomery County to take a look at that aspect.
Thanks, guys. That's right. Before we get to that story, I want to let you, the
It is the Dennis Prager Show. Mark Davis filling in. We're in the home stretch here on a Friday. Holy cow. What are we going to do with this? We're going to take some calls, have some fun, talk about some stuff, and sling some hot topics. At 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. Okay, Nancy Pelosi. Don't change the station. This will be brief, and it'll be instructive. Okay, brief and instructive. Because when these people reveal themselves, it is of value. So this is a young lady from the CNS News Service, conservative website, and she asks Nancy Pelosi, is an unborn baby at 15 weeks a human being? Wonderful question, right? Her answer is, as I've said, instructive and useful. So let's go. It's like 27 seconds. We're going to play it, let you experience it in real time, and then we'll go back through it frame by frame like the Zapruder film. Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm with CNS News. The Supreme Court this fall will review a Mississippi law that bans most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Is an unborn baby at 15 weeks a human being?
Let me just say that I am a big supporter of Roe v. Wade. I am a mother of 5 children in 6 years. I think I have some standing on this issue as to respecting a woman's right to choose.
Is it a human?
And then she asks again, tries to ask again, is it a human being? And she moves on to another question. Okay, what just happened? Let's take it segment by segment. First, the question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm with CNS News. The Supreme Court this fall will review a Mississippi law that bans most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Is an unborn baby at 15 weeks a human being?
Boom. That is a superb question. It is a yes or no question. And someone may expound on it further after having answered yes or no. Is the unborn baby at 15 weeks a human being? Here's why this is a deliciously crafted trap for Nancy Pelosi or anybody who's pro-choice. If the answer is yes, it's a human being, well then, that rather exposes the savagery of your abortion view, doesn't it? If, however, you answer no, the 15-week-old baby is not a human being, golly, how ghoulishly dismissive does that look? It's not a human being. What heartbeat did I just listen to? When we say we're expecting the baby, how far along are you? 15 weeks. Oh, really? What is that? A toaster in there? What is it? A tumor? It's not a tumor. What? I mean, huh? So there is no good answer, and that's exactly the deserved fate of the pro-choicer asked that question. Is the unborn baby, because that's what it is, at 15 weeks a human being? If you say yes, then you are revealed as the ghoul that you are for being cavalier about the extinction of that life. And if you answer truthfully and say, no, I don't consider a human being, well then that just seems blatantly scientifically false. So that's the landscape that the question provides. So if you're Nancy Pelosi, the only thing you can do is not answer it and go straight to the index cards, but then you spice up the index cards with something that is, well, there may not be an adjective, so let's just experience it together again.
Let me just say that I'm a big supporter of Roe v. Wade. I am a mother of 5 children in 6 years. I think I have some standing on this issue as to respecting a woman's right to choose.
I am a mother of 5 kids in 6 years, so she brought a lot of life into the world in rapid succession. Thank you for that. So giving children life, being a mother, gives you standing? Is that what she called it? Standing? To be cavalier about the decisions of other mothers? Because that's what they are, mothers. That is a baby. These women are mothers. And her standing as having delivered a few children into the world gives her standing to be cavalier about the decisions of others, to deny life to other children. My God in heaven. So, and again, just revealing the breaking story out of the U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops, they're moving forward with something that could be serious problems for Nancy Pelosi at Mass and Joe Biden alongside. And that is that communion, not appropriate if you are in just willful violation of church teaching on abortion. Mark Davison for Dennis, your thoughts welcome. 1-8-PRAGER-776.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
United States Congress has finally found something they can agree on. United States Congress, of course, can't agree on whether or not the Constitution is a document worthy of honoring. They can't agree on whether or not they should curb inflation. They can't address the crisis on the southern border. They can't try to bring back manufacturing jobs to our country. But the one thing that Congress has decided to agree on, and every single senator voted in favor of this, was to create a new federal holiday. 14 members of the House of Representatives deserve credit for voting against this, and that is to create a new federal holiday called Juneteenth. Now, you might not have heard this before. Juneteenth.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
We're talking to the author of a brand new book, Collateral Damage. The author is Mark Shaw. Mark, you were talking about Joseph Kennedy, the patriarch. Hard to imagine a darker figure. I mean, here's a guy involved in bootlegging. I mean, would you say that he was a criminal, or he just associated with criminals?
I think he was like a lot, back then, criminals or let's say the mafia or whatever, those guys were celebrities in many ways. Gianni can tell you that. They weren't looked upon as bad guys. I mean, Dorothy Kilgallen, a friend of hers was Frank Costello. She used to have lunch with him, and get information.
I haven't heard that. She would have lunch with Frank Costello?
Yeah. And he gave her you'll see in the book, he gave her a diamond ring. And it was so big, the diamond, that they went ahead and separated and made it into a bracelet or something. That's confirmed by her hairdresser. I mean, they were celebrities back then. Melvin Belli was a wannabe mafia guy. There were many people like to hang around them or say, Sinatra liked to do that. He would brag about the fact that he knew all these bad guys. It was kind of like an honor of some sort. And Joe Kennedy loved that during the bootlegging days and after that. And so all he had to do was say to Frank Sinatra, get in touch with Giancana, Marcello, those guys, help us win the 60 election, and then we'll leave those guys alone. And Joe Kennedy thought that, I'm going to show the mafia I'm bigger than you guys. I'm going to sick Bobby on you. Well, it cost him his son. It cost him JFK.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694.
It is the Dennis Prager Show. closing quarter hour here on this Friday, the 18th of June. 1-8-PRAGER-776. 1-8-PRAGER-776 as we head back to your calls in Arizona. Sylvia, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for taking the call. First of all, Nancy Pelosi's facelift looks like her CPA did it. Second of all, whoever voted for Dumb and Dumber, they're right where they belong. Unfortunately, we all suffer. But in the National Geographic, there's an article referencing that people who have beautiful trees in their front yard, that's a sign of racism, because back in the day, the slaves did not have shade, so they're asking you to cut your trees down.
Oh, gracious me. Well, I don't want to even think about what somebody thinks of me for having air conditioning. Oh, my gosh. And it's easy to chuckle at the inanities of some of this, but in an inattentive country, in a historically illiterate country, this is a cause for real worry. Because, especially in the following way, I'll tell you where this takes me, is have you seen the lists of things, and a lot of them can be found in corporate training rooms, where I don't know if they're just sort of doing the bidding of BLM or trying to stave off protests or, prevent, hostile visits by Al Sharpton or whatever they may be trying to do, whatever may be motivating them. This notion of sort of what racism is, what might be signs of racism. This is actually pretty straightforward. I will give you a sign of racism. There's only one. There's only one. A million things come under this umbrella, but there's only one indicator of racism, and that is to mistreat or think less of someone because of their race. Ta-da! No charge. That's what racism is. That is its definition. I kind of made it up, but it's perfect. A lot of people tap dance and diagram 47-word sentences. Racism, by definition, is to treat somebody poorly or to think less of them, to mistreat or disregard someone because of their race. That's it. That's it. You can have a racist policy, you can have a racist attitude, you can have a racist outrage, you can have racist cruelty, you can have racist jokes, you can have, whatever. Oh, and by the way, not all racial jokes are racist. So, anyway, that's another whole talk show. But when you have the expansion of this definition, this is not just an assault on the language. This is ruinous to society. How many times have you heard it referred to as racist? They'll be on a list of things that'll be to be task-oriented, to devote yourself to completing things on time, punctuality, being driven by a good result. These things are supposedly racist or white supremacy in practice. I got to tell you, when we start to tell all the black people that good habits, like being on time, being punctual, getting good grades, this is not new. When I was in my previous gig before being here in my native Texas, from 90 to 94, I was back in where I grew up in Washington, D.C. I grew up in the Maryland suburbs of D.C. They're in the People's Republic of Maryland. And I'll never forget an article in the Washington Times circa 1990, 91. And they took a survey of the kids in the absolutely pathetic District of Columbia public schools. And it was revealed that getting good grades and being well behaved in class was derided as acting white. My heart broke, and it does still. Alrighty, let's see. We are down the road. We're in Grapevine, Texas. Jimmy, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just had I have differences in opinion in the way you presented the question to Pelosi.
Tell me.
Kind of disingenuous the way you presented it, because as we know, her question was, do you consider a baby at 15 weeks? Well, okay, right there you stop.
Well, no.
Scientifically, like you said, It's a fetus, not a baby.
No. If
Yeah.
someone goes,
Oh, yeah. You can't
okay,
count
I've
me
got a
down.
question for you, sir, Jimmy. If you ever have a wife, or if your wife, your daughter, are if they're pregnant, and they're going to the doctor to hear the heartbeat, okay? You're at 15
You're going
weeks.
to have a baby. You're going to have a baby.
Exactly.
It's a fetus, scientifically.
Jimmy,
come on
answer
now.
my question. Answer my question. A pregnant woman goes to the doctor. She's 15 weeks into the pregnancy. She's going to hear a heartbeat. Whose heartbeat is she there to hear?
Okay, I agree with that, but that's not the point. The point, the way the question was presented.
That is exactly the point.
No. I'm anti-Pelosi. Don't get me wrong, but I'm also anti the way things are presented to be so lopsided in this particular issue.
I'm sorry.
Because
what's
it
the
is
problem?
a fetus.
Then what's the problem? I mean, fetus is a scientific term that no human being uses. When you're at 15 weeks of pregnancy, that's a baby.
Scientists use it every day.
No,
scientists.
Jimmy, stop it. This is a pro-choice index card. Stop it. Stop it now. Fetus is, no one says, oh my, the fetus is kicking. No one. That is a baby. Whose heartbeat are you going to hear? We're going to hear the baby's heartbeat. Is it a fully formed, able to live outside the womb baby? Nope. But is that a baby in there? You're damn right it is. And it deserves protection. And by the way, I don't even know if the gentleman and I even disagree on this. It was convoluted. It was weird. So let's boil it down to ultimate simplicity. The question was asked of Nancy Pelosi. And I will tell you this, if I committed the following language sin, pardon me, I think I said 15-week-old baby. That suggests birthday 15 weeks ago. I mean the baby at 15 weeks. The baby at 15 weeks of development in the womb. Is that a distinct human life? Of course it is. Abortion stops a beating heart. One of the best, some of the best bumper sticker wisdom ever. What does abortion do? It stops a beating heart. All right, I'll have something to lift your hearts to close out with. We're going to a hockey game to hear the national anthem done right. Have it for you next. Mark Davison for Dennis. Happy Friday.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. We know exactly what's going on here. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
By the President of the United States, cut number 17.
The Republican Party is vastly diminished in numbers. The leadership of the Republican Party is fractured, and the Trump wing of the party is the bulk of the party, but it makes up a significant minority of the American people.
What do you make of that, Senator Cotton?
I think Joe Biden is trying to find excuses for his own failures in these first 4 months in office. If he wants to see divisions in a party, I suggest that he looks at the congressional wing of his party, where fringe progressives are saying that Joe Manchin is defending Jim Crow. The Democrats have FDR and LBJ-sized ambition. Unfortunately for them, they don't have FDR, LBJ-sized majorities. The House majority is the smallest it's been in almost a century. And the Senate, they don't even have a majority. It's evenly divided. Chuck Schumer is the Senate floor leader. He is not the majority leader because he only controls the Senate by virtue of Kamala Harris being available to come down to the Capitol and break a tie on close votes. So Joe Biden came into office with negative coattails, something far different from Donald Trump or Barack Obama or George Bush or Bill Clinton. And you're seeing that in the Congress right now. And I think that clip you just played from Joe Biden reflects his recognition that he simply doesn't have the votes to pass his far left agenda. I mean, I don't know why he's bringing it up overseas when he should be representing the United States and making foreign policy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and
In the final moments of the Friday Dennis Prager Show, what a joy it's been to be with you, Mark Davis, here from 660 AM, The Answer, DFW. So, in the hockey Final Four, we're in the semifinals, and if you're in Vegas or Montreal and rooting for whoever wins that Golden Knights Canadiens tilt, or if you're in Tampa Bay where it's all about Go Lightning, I totally understand. Dennis's team, the LA Kings, my team, Dallas Stars, long gone. So let's go to those New York Islanders and show them some love for this. Here's what happened a couple of games ago. A wonderful singer named Nicole Revive was singing the national anthem, and her mic goes out. And the crowd just jumps in and finishes the song for her. Now they do this on purpose.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting tonight's colors is the United States Coast Guard. And now, please join Nicole Revive as we sing together.
Together.
Our national anthem.
They're going to do it together, all right.
Oh, son, can you see?
See, she's great.
By the dawn's
And the crowd is there in full throat behind her. She will intentionally this time lower her mic, and the crowd takes over. Nicole will return for a strong finish.
say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the
That's how you do it. So, if you're in Montreal and you're all about the Canadiens, or in Vegas about the Golden Knights, and Tampa Bay rooting for the Lightning, I totally understand. But if you're agnostic about the rest of this hockey season, for my money, give me those New York Islanders fans doing exactly that for as many games as fate will allow. I think they lost last night. I think they're down 2-1 versus the Lightning. But you know what? Real quick, a word. This is why the anthem kneeling was so terrible, because wasn't that delicious? Nobody arguing about race or politics or masks or COVID restrictions, just love of country. And that and only that is what that is about. Thank you to Sean and Christian and Suzette, and thanks to all of you. I'm Mark Davis. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. See you back whenever they ask here on the Dennis Prager Show. Have a wonderful and blessed week. Take care.